Welcome aboard, everybody. It is coffee break for Friday, February 17th. No Rachel Vigil today.
Mm.
She's on assignment, so you get me, James Merrill from DenverSports.com. But D-Mac is here. D-Mac, how are you doing on this Friday morning?
Wow, can you imagine the massive disappointment right now for
It's
for basically everybody?
it's immense. It's immense. I mean, everybody tuned in, ready for Rachel to kind of lead them into Friday, get her take on sports, and kind of end the week on a positive note. And instead, they get 45 minutes of you and I.
That is a deal with the devil right there. I mean, if you can muster through this 45 minutes, you can likely do anything. Now, who will be calling us during coffee break to miss? Will it be relatives? Will it be coworkers? Will it be children in trouble? I mean, James, who are you predicting will try to interrupt us during coffee break today?
Yeah, the odds of you and I getting to 11:15 without somebody calling are virtually zero. I'm gonna go with well, what would be great is if it was Rachel. Now that would be fantastic if she didn't even realize it. I'm gonna go with coworker if you're giving me the first round draft pick on this.
I'd have to go with the dark horse in the stable would be my parents, who Darren, how are ya? I mean, it's still explaining and figuring out to a 75 and 85-year-old parents the 2 hour time difference. The mountain time zone by itself is perplexing to even the like Stephen Hawking never really figured out the mountain time zone. So I shouldn't expect too much from mom and dad. But that's the dark horse. But I'll go with the coworker too. But listen, James, we'll do our best while we can until 11:15 or so hits, or somebody calls us that shouldn't.
Well, and here's the deal: if somebody calls, we have to take the call live on the air on speakerphone.
Well, for me, it gets screwed up. I mean, I'm such a Neanderthal with this. I actually, believe it or not, do coffee break on my phone. So
Oh,
that's why
okay.
it really screws me up. And
Uh,
I try to do the best I can with things that I need to do. But listen, we're going to be in that new studio relatively soon that they've been preparing, and that'll be very exciting. And we don't do many shows without Rachel, so we'll get through it.
Yep. So here we go. Lots to get into, DMAC.
Yes.
Big news, I guess, of the day is the fact that Vance Joseph is reportedly in town meeting with Sean Payton. He's down at the UC Health Center interviewing for the Broncos defensive coordinator job. It's a little bit of a bizarro world, right? Like if you'd have told me 4 years ago when VJ got run out of town that he'll be back with the chance to be the defensive coordinator in 2023, I would have said you were crazy. Are you okay with the fact that they're considering going down this path again? Do you think it's a total non-starter? Where are you at on this one?
I think this has all the makings of Melvin Gordon Part 2. It's does it make sense for VJ to be qualified after 4 years, not 1 year as a defensive coordinator with the Dolphins and then head coach of the Broncos? He's been the DC down there for 4 years. All right, that's a healthy chunk of time. So he is more than qualified for defensive coordinator jobs or head coaching jobs. Round two. The problem is here, like Melvin Gordon was more than qualified to be some sort of running back, other places. But why did you bring him back to the Broncos when the things were just so kind of dicey in the first place? I mean, listen, with his history between him and Philip Lindsay and the fumbling issues, you go to, I don't know, Baltimore or Tennessee to back up Derrick Henry or whatever. All that stuff sort of goes away. It's not an issue. When you come back to the, proverbial scene of the crime, you carry all that baggage with you, whether it's fair or not, except perhaps for like Wade Phillips. But James, how long was it between the time Wade Phillips was the head coach, and only for 2 years, just like BJ, and he came back as the DC?
It's 20 years. He was the head coach in 93 and 94. He came back as the DC in 2015. I mean, that's
Big
an
difference.
eternity, right? So, yeah, I mean, it does feel like it's just a recipe for disaster and your Melvin Gordon comparison, I think, is perfect, right? Like, Melvin Gordon, as soon as he made a mistake this year,
Right.
week one, the fumble, no benefit out, no grace period, no runway because of all the baggage that he brought with him into the season. That's how it's going to be with VJ, right? Like if the Broncos, let's say their offense is really good to start the year, and it's hey, Sean Payton has fixed Russ, and they're scoring 28 points a game, but they're 1-2 because their defense can't stop anybody. Broncos country is going to go crazy about why on earth would you bring back VJ? I just think it's one of those things of yeah, if they win and he keeps things on track with the defense, fine. But the first little problem, this thing could just snowball out of control.
It's a tricky situation. So is he again? Greg Penner doesn't know any of this. This is all new to Greg Penner. He doesn't have any VJ memories, and likely and actually neither does George Payton. To keep it real, I mean he wasn't around here for this stuff either, and neither was Sean Payton. So everybody, and neither was Condoleezza Rice. So nobody that really is in charge of this will have any kind of feeling about what it once was. Can it work out? Well, it worked out with Wade. I mean, worked out with Wade. They won a Super Bowl. So it really worked out with Wade. And Wade was very self deprecating. Wade wasn't necessarily looking for a head coach job. Wade had a big ego, and Wade had some conflicts with other coaches because of it. And Wade definitely made a us against them sort of attitude with the defense against the offense, which probably wasn't the healthiest thing at times. But who cares? Wade got the most out of his defense, and they won. The one rip on Wade is that after a year or two, people could just figure him out. He wouldn't change. He sort of got things together, and he wouldn't really evolve. If you bring in VJ, there's no doubt he'll be just looking for the next head coaching job out of town. And that's not the worst thing in the world either. That's okay. You want very qualified people. And in the world of coordinators, if you were to stay with the team for a couple of years and get a head coaching job, the Broncos pick up 2 third-round draft picks. So there's other benefits of him leaving after being successful. Rex Ryan, to me, I'm not even sure what to say on this. I read Nate Jackson's piece at denversports.com.
It's
It
very
was a
good.
take.
Interesting.
It was something that I never even considered. Maybe you want to just, talk about what that was and we can get into it.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, Nate put out there that Russell Wilson needs to have that the defensive coordinator can have as much impact on fixing Russ as Sean Payton, and that's based on mini camps, training camps, practice every single day during the season, having somebody on the other side of the ball that is testing Russell Wilson, that's pushing him, that's trying to get the best out of him. Certainly wasn't something we saw this year, although there was a little, friction between the offense and defense a couple of times during training camp. But I heard Orlando Franklin talking about this morning. He was sitting in for Stink, and he was with Mike Evans, and he was talking about how, at first when he got into the league, he thought he was going to get cut. Like he's like, I can't block these guys. He couldn't block Vaughn. He couldn't block Elvis Dumerville. He just thought, oh my gosh, I can't play in this league. And then they went and played Dallas in a preseason game, and it was easy because he'd been going against those two guys during practice. And he said as the season went on, if he worked hard on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, he knew Sunday was going to be a breeze. I think there's something to that. And I do think Rex Ryan, with his personality, is going to use practice as an opportunity to just come after people. I mean, his father was that way. You watch the old shows about the 85 Bears, Buddy Ryan would just come out there and try to ruin practice by blitzing the offense and doing all sorts of things. So I think there's something to be said for that of, yeah, let's have a little, healthy conflict, if you will.
Well, I love the article and I love the concept, and hearing it from Nate is a great source on all of that. I'm not disagreeing with it, but I'll just let you know, in a very light sort of training glamp sort of way, even last year, Russ struggled. So you didn't really need to have somebody be a fire starter to have Russ have problems against the defense. And the defense did give Russ a lot of crap last year. I mean, we kind of keep going back to that same example. The defense shuts down the offense in a, it's like 1st and goal from the 6-yard line, 12 straight times, most of those reps with Russ, some with Rip. But I mean, you just never see it. There's no tackling, there's no pressure, there's no nothing. And you cannot get into the end zone 12 straight times in a row. And then, Russ gets the offense huddled up and the defense comes out and clowns on the offense. And Simmons and Russ are having words between each other after both huddles sort of break away. I mean, James, it kind of already did happen like that.
Yeah.
So if it's is more of that, better. The Dallas Cowboys came to town and Russell Wilson went around and shook everybody's hand on defense. Meanwhile, the Broncos defense and the Cowboys offense were fighting each other for like to the degree that I thought they were going to cancel the practice because it was so out of control between those two sides of the ball. So it's an interesting question. What will push Russell Wilson to be better? It could be somebody that's been very vociferous in his criticism of Russ on national TV and is now on the practice field saying what? Hey, I was right. I mean that's an interesting concept right there. I really don't know what gets Russ going, James. I find him a confounding person to understand. So I'm open for discussions, and if Nate Jackson thinks that's a positive, I mean, okay. But I just question Rex Ryan's motivation for any of this.
Yeah, well, let's go back to VJ first, then we'll work our way through the
Okay.
candidates, and we can rank them. I have two issues with VJ. Number one, I don't think his resume is particularly good, right? Like he was a DC for 1 year in Miami before he got the head coaching job here. His defense was ranked 29th. Like it just not good. This past year in Arizona, his defense was 31st in points allowed. Only the Bears were worse, and the Bears couldn't stop anybody. So that's a concern if you're just looking at it at resume. If he had never been here, had never been the Broncos head coach, and we said, hey, you know who Sean Payton's going to interview? The guy whose defense gave up the second most points in the league, we'd all be saying, what? Why on earth is he a candidate? So that's my number one thing. And then the other part of it is the fact that he was here. I get it. Greg Penner, George Payton, Russell Wilson, they weren't a part of that, but the fan base was, and they all remember it. The media all remembers it. So I think to just discount that would be a mistake on their part. It's a little bit like going on vacation with your ex, right? Like, she's with somebody else, you're with somebody else, everybody's happy, but it's still just awkward. It just, maybe push that down a couple of decades. It just feels like it just is a recipe for disaster to me.
Have you ever gone on a vacation with an ex?
No, can you imagine? I think that'd be terrible.
I had a girl I was super into in high school speak at my wedding.
Speak or sing?
Speak.
Really?
Like said stuff.
Yeah, but she wasn't your ex. There wasn't,
I tried. I mean, I tried, Jay. I gave it the high school try. Trust me.
Yeah.
It was awkward. I think back on that, and we're still friends to this day. But I really do wonder what my current wife of 28 years, by the way, must have thought of that moment. I really probably should have just invited her because we were friends and she could sort of sit in the back,
Yeah.
But no. I had to bring her on up and have her say something. I really don't know what I was thinking. It's a fair point. I'm agreeing with you.
My wife's from a town of 200 people. So, like, sending out invitations for the wedding was pointless. I mean, just should have said, hey, here's where it is. Everybody was there anyway.
Sure.
But her graduating class was like 9 people. So, just by default, there were going to be people at our wedding like, yeah, I went to prom with him. I went to prom with him. It's like, that was awkward enough. I don't need to go on vacation with these people.
Is that the euphemism you'd like to use? Go to prom?
That's as far as I'm going to get into it. Like,
okay. Go to prom.
Dancing in cummerbunds. That's all it was.
I got a cummerbund at prom. I think we all know what you're talking about.
Right.
I didn't get a cummerbund at prom. So.
Yep. So anyhow, that's why I don't think VJ is going to work.
Listen, this is a bad idea. I don't know how else to put it. I'm laughing at the whole situation. That I know VJ wants to come back here. I've been told by multiple people behind the scenes that he is highly enthusiastic about coming back here, and I get it. He's got a history with Colorado. He doesn't hold any problems with the Broncos, and everybody he had a problem with the Broncos is no longer around.
Yeah, John Elway kind of stuck it to VJ, if we're just being honest, right?
Yeah, but John is a paid consultant, but it's a very low level deal. Like John is like a professor emeritus at this point. And there's a couple of other people in the Broncos organization that might get a paycheck here and there, James, that really don't do anything.
Yeah.
They're really good people. I don't have anything bad to say about them. And I really don't have a problem if John wants a good parking space and to walk out on the field during training camp a couple times. It's okay. I got no problems with that because I know John has nothing to do with nothing.
And really, even as a lifelong Broncos fan, like I don't have venom toward VJ, right? Because he was followed by
Right.
Vic Fangio, who was worse, followed by Nathaniel Hackett, who's the worst head coach in Broncos history. You throw in McDaniels, like VJ doesn't even get on the podium for
You're
worst.
right. You're right.
So it's not that. It's just like it just feels too soon. So I would actually put him fourth in the candidates, and it's just because of that. It's well, those two things: resume and it's going on vacation with your ex. I would put Rex Ryan at the top because his resume is impeccable. His first 10 years as a defensive coordinator and head coach, top 10 defense 9 times. The only time he wasn't in the top 10, he was 11th. I'd put him first and then flip a coin between, what do we got? Chris Richard and Sean Desai. Those are the other two candidates. I'll go with the unknown. I'll go with what's behind door number 3. Don't have any idea what they're going to do rather than what I do know in VJ. That's my rankings. How about you?
Well, I think the original plan was Vic Fangio. And I think it just got like ridiculous. Like, I think he was, because except for the Broncos, Vic Fangio going with Sean Payton to one of the other 4 open jobs, would have been just fine, really. So I think that blew up in Sean Payton's face a little bit when they just realized, hey, we just can't do this. We just cannot hire this guy back here who we just fired. We just can't do it. There's a little bit more distance with VJ. I am very surprised Sean Desai didn't get the job already. He's a Vic Fangio guy, and Vic Fangio was your number 1 guy. He's got the right resume to get this position, and he's a minority candidate, which would fit into the Rooney Rule stuff as well. So I'm actually kind of shocked Sean Desai has not got the job. I don't know anything about Richard, whatever his name is. Although I do know he's got a connection with Sean Payton. So I guess I'm a little surprised he's just not bringing on one of his guys, and we'll see how it goes. The fact that they're getting to VJ seems like wild. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how you got there. Like, I'm trying to figure out how this made sense in the first place. And Rex Ryan is like an outer space crazy. I would love it just as a media muggle. I mean, my God. I mean, this would be absolutely fantastic. But on the surface, I mean, what? Why? So rank them. If I were to rank them, I would actually put Richard first because you might as well work with somebody you've got a relationship with, okay?
Right.
Circle the wagons a little bit. After that, I really would go with Desai. I mean, that would be a Vic Fangio-esque style of defense. And then I would go, I don't know, man. I think there's more upside to VJ than Rex Ryan. But if I'm just selfishly, James, if I'm just selfishly ranking what I'd like to see for our purposes, by a mile, it's Rex Ryan. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even close.
And I think he brings 2 things to the table though that are necessary. One, you talked about the Vic Fangio style of defense. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm tired of bend but don't break. I'm tired of death by paper cut. Like, give me a defensive coordinator that's just going to come after people. So that's the first thing. The second part of it is in this division, I think you do need somebody who has that mentality of like, yeah, I'm embracing the fact that we got to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year and Justin Herbert twice a year, and a guy who was in Tom Brady's division with the Patriots, with the Jets, and gave him fits. I think that mentality can be a good thing. So those are a couple of things I think Rex Ryan. I'm not saying the other guys aren't going to be that way. We just don't know with Richard and with Desai, but we know it with Rex Ryan. Like, we've seen the clips from Hard Knocks. We've seen him behind the scenes.
I'll give you this. And then you've got the special teams guy there, Westhoff, who he's a media hound. He is a spotlight guy. So I'll tell you this. If you got Sean Payton, Westhoff, and Rex Ryan, we are going to have so much gossip and information about what's going behind the scenes. It is going to be the most open door ever. I mean, the 3 of these guys won't stop blabbing to all the media people. You will have more leaks than the Titanic if this happens with the 3 of these guys. So for entertainment's sake, this is what's a little interesting to me too. They don't really reflect on the surface Greg Penner's personality. Greg Penner seems to be a very buttoned down, corporate, sort of regimented sort of dude, very streamlined. This with those three guys, kaboom! And George Payton is listen. There's a reason why George Payton did not get fired by Greg Penner. I think they do think alike. I think they do share the same style of how they want to operate. I think it's very conservative and very safe. I think it's very sort of analytic in how they do things. It's not how you can operate in a football team effectively because James, you do have to take chances. And people that think like that probably aren't comfortable taking a lot of chances, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, James, was supposed to be the most solid conservative thing. When you really look at it, because of the value you gave away, it was the most insanely risky thing of all time. You know what a safe move would have been? And I'm remembering when they took Patrick Surtain and, George Payton looked around the room, safe, Fangio, bleh, bleh. Safe, looking at Elway, he's thinking about Coeur d'Alene, and then you could see some of the scouts there. You could tell some of the scouts wanted a quarterback, not a cornerback, nothing against Patrick Surtain. But James, taking a cornerback there was insanely risky. It was like the least safe thing you could have possibly done when you needed a quarterback and there were two highly qualified candidates sitting right there in front of you. So I think they think things are safe, but this is a little pro Sean Payton, Rex Ryan chaos theory here, okay? While it's against Penner and George Payton's way, it actually is, James. You're right about this. It's more in line of the risk-taking, aggressive nature of success in the NFL.
Yeah, Greg Penner seems like the kind of guy who gets up at the exact same time every day, has one poached egg on his avocado toast every day, with
Right.
one cup of coffee, with one sugar cube. He's that guy. And yeah, the other ones are not. It does sort of beg the question though, DMAC, of like you look at it now, and we're now 2 full weeks through since the press conference. It was a week ago Monday, so all of last week, all of this week have come and gone work weeks, and there's nobody on this staff. And it just begs the question, like, well, what was the plan? What was the plan that Sean Payton put in front of Greg Penner and Condi and George Payton of like, here's what we're going to do. Here's what I'm going to put together. Was it really Rex Ryan, who's been out of football for 5 years, Mike Westhoff, who's been out of football for 5 years? Like, is he going to interview anybody or hire anybody who actually was in the league in 2022? It's bizarre, even if you like each of those candidates, which I'm fine with them. But it is bizarre and does feel like it's kind of by the seat of their pants.
Well, and I think this is exactly why Sean Payton at the end of the day was the third choice. I think this is exactly why he's getting 18, not 25 per in terms of money. Still a lot of money, but it ain't 25, that's for sure. James, I think it's all those things. What was his plan? I don't think he had a plan. I think his plan was, I'm Sean Payton. I'll figure it out. And I think that went over like a fart in church. And I think that's why they went back and talked to Jim Harbaugh. I think that's why. I bet you anything. D'Amico Ryans had PowerPoints and notebooks, and I bet you anything. D'Amico Ryans was unbelievably well organized because look where he came from. That's the way they just do business with the 49ers. There's a reason they are who they are. So I bet you D'Amico Ryans was unbelievable. Okay? Unbelievable. And that, to me, is probably why Greg Penner liked him the most. Never mind, there is pressure, rightfully so, to have more minority coaches in a head coaching role in the NFL and in coordinator roles. So, I mean, D'Amico Ryans hit it out of the park. The thing that the Broncos just could not compete with, and money, didn't matter, is family. And D'Amico Ryan's wife and family being from Houston. And even though he sued Houston for $10 million for an injury reason, still you can't fight with what the heart wants, which was home. But that being said, I bet you anything D'Amico Ryans blew them away in the interview process. And I bet you Sean Payton didn't. And I bet you one of the reasons was because he really didn't have a plan. As we are seeing, James, he didn't have a plan aside from Fangio. That's not going to work here. And there really was no, that's your plan A. So if that's your plan A, you certainly didn't have a plan B.
No, and look, I don't want to hit the panic button yet because aside from Carolina, none of the new head coaches have put together a staff, right? Even D'Amico Ryans down in Houston, and then the other two, Arizona and Indianapolis, they were just hired this week. They were coordinators that were in the Super Bowl, so it's not as though the music has stopped and it's time to find a seat. But it is concerning. You mentioned where D'Amico Ryans came from and how buttoned up they are in San Francisco. They knew D'Amico Ryans was probably going to get a head coaching job. It took him about 3 minutes to fill that spot with Steve Wilkes. Had a plan, right? They knew who they were going to go get. And Steve Wilkes is a guy who's been a head coach, did a really good job as the interim head coach in Carolina,
Yeah.
right? And then you bring him in, boom, not going to miss a beat. That's an organization that has a plan, that knows what they're doing, has contingencies for different ways to go. This may all work out fine. It might. Just like the head coaching search, I think probably did work out fine, but that doesn't mean that the method was the right one. Just because the end doesn't justify the means. We'll break out that old cliche.
Yeah, I'm not trying to panic either, even though it might sound like it. I'm not panicking. You got plenty of time to sort of figure this stuff out. I mean, the combine is in a week, and you'd like to have your staff in place by the combine. But you know what, James? I mean, coordinators get hired and fired willy-nilly all the time. It happens during training camp, before camp, during the season. I don't know. I'm not really that hung up on it. I just find it more entertaining than anything else that it's really clear to me this is the reason why they were hesitant on Sean Payton in the first place. I mean, I think I think this is relatively clear. So I would say, see, I'm having a hard time. I'm not saying VJ isn't deserving of this type of job. I'm not. It's just a weird situation, and I don't know, man. It's pretty insular. You really just go to work. You don't have to consume the media if you don't want to. VJ got along well with everybody in the media, by the way. It's not like Fangio. A lot of people in the media, myself included, were just like, had enough of Fangio. It's just like, gosh. I wasn't like that with VJ. I understood the bad hand he was dealt, okay? I mean, I got it. I'm not saying he didn't deserve for them to move on, because, I mean, the results on the field, especially in the second year, James, were, I mean, it was terrible. I mean, it was 8 losses in a row. You're losing by 40 or whatever to the Eagles on the road. I mean, it was, James, it was a mess. I mean, he had totally lost the team because the team felt he had lied to them about TJ Ward and dealing him. But that was all Elway. That was all Elway's mess, and VJ had to take the fall for it. So it's comical about, Elway, I got to sleep on it if I'm going to bring VJ back. Yeah. How about bringing Elway back? How about sleeping on that?
Well, and VJ didn't burn bridges on his way out of town like I feel Fangio did, and Hackett certainly has. I mean, man, the last 2 weeks in terms of everybody from that staff trying to get jobs, it was what a mess it is in Denver, right? And that's pointing the finger at Russell Wilson and George Payton and to some extent Greg Penner. Like those are like Vic was never. It wasn't even just because Vic was more recent. It was sort of that just sort of had an ugly feel to it. I think Nathaniel Hackett, believe it or not, for a guy who comes across really nice, I don't think there's any chance he'd ever come back here with the people that are currently in charge. So it's not bitterness about VJ. It just seems a little bit weird. I'm going to panic if a week from now, though, D-Mac, we don't know who the coordinators are and most of the staff. That to me is going to be like, what are we doing?
Maybe this is the biggest reason I'm not going to panic no matter what. I think the number one problem is Russell Wilson and his contract. Number 2 is George Payton. Number 3 is injuries. So I'm not panicking about any of this because I think you've already made some serious mistakes. I think Greg Penner made some serious mistakes already. I think you should have done a post-June 1st designation for Russell Wilson just to move away from him. You certainly should have blown out George Payton. This whole only George knows how to do things is one of the most preposterous lines of reasoning I've ever heard of in my life. But okay, you kept him. You shouldn't have. So all of this stuff to me, that's why I'm laughing, James. James, that's why I'm laughing. Because you're trying to fix a model with a bunch of glue, and you don't even realize you don't have the right parts. So you're gluing all this stuff together haphazardly, but at the end of the day, the part that you need is, whacked by my cat under the couch, and you don't even need to, to look for it. I mean, the first thing you needed to do was move the damn couch. And if you don't move the damn couch, what are you doing in the first place? And that is the first move the couch analogy that has ever been used in sports analytic history.
Yes.
So you didn't move the couch. The piece is sitting under there. Listen, I like this analogy as I go. It's not hard to find. It's not difficult to figure out, but you've got to imagine it. and see it first. And right now, the couch is covering everything up.
Yeah, when you move the couch and it's just sitting there, it's plain as day. That needs to be your hashtag if this isn't working this upcoming season. Move the couch.
Move the couch?
Yes.
Right. Because the most obvious problem is Russell Wilson. Okay. I mean, everybody's talking about fixing Russell. They look what they thought. Oh, Hackett doesn't know how to manage the game plan. Rosberg. Okay. Hackett's not good at calling the plays. All right, Kubiak, and then that worked better. Hackett gets embarrassed on Christmas for a variety of reasons. General Jerry Lee Rosberg coming to the rescue. It's like all these it's like gluing all the pieces together, and you're not moving the couch. Moving the couch is difficult. It's the most strenuous thing to do. So the most strenuous, hardest thing to do is to just move on from Russell Wilson. And second, maybe it's a love seat, is move on from George Payton. And then just eat it. And nobody wants to make the sacrifices, James, to just, eat it for a little bit and build back up. And listen, I get it. It was all done. It just was, lawyers and everything else. It was a bad look for Greg Penner to go play golf before Sean Payton was really inked, okay? The social media message was Sean Payton sitting there by himself in Broncos gear as cloak and dagger Mission Impossible. We find out he was in the building for 3 days working, and it was weird. It was like the Broncos people were laughing at us because, oh, it's really okay. It reminds me of the Randy Gregory situation, where I remember when we found out news that he was really hurt and had surgery. And then some vibes from inside the Broncos were like, oh, ha, ha, ha. He was walking around in a sling for a week. We all knew that. It was like, well, okay, that's your big secret. Well, it got found out, and it just doesn't look good. And listen, Greg Penner's learning how to do this. He's made a couple of big mistakes right off the bat, and I hope he can recover from them. And you're trying to do it now with a coach who came in third. I'm doing Inglorious Bastards, German 3, again, 2 days in a row. Third, so are we surprised there's some bumps in the road when your third choice, who probably interviewed poorly, who had to send secret messages to Condoleezza Rice with his pocket square and his tie to tell the Broncos he really did love them? Are we surprised that there's some issues here? No. Am I panicked? No, I'm not panicked because I know in my heart of hearts, you can only do so much with Russell Wilson. And if you get to 8 wins, okay. I don't really care who your defensive coordinator is. To me, 8 wins would be a success, and it'll put you in purgatory because you will not be in a place to draft Drake May or Caleb.
8 wins will be a disaster, and if they're trending toward 8 wins, I will be with you on move the couch. I will get on board. I'm Team Russ right now. I think he's fixable. I think Hackett was the problem, but I'm not going to stubbornly be entrenched in my position here, right? Like if we see with Sean Payton that he's no better, then yeah, he's cooked, and it's time to move on. And you eat it. You have a big cap hit for in 24 and 25, and you try to move on from there. I'm just not quite sure I agree with you. Another thing, D-Mac, as we transition here, that I'm not sure you and I agree with. Maybe we do, though. You wrote a piece, denversports.com this week about how the Nuggets, we can't say anything negative about the Nuggets. We just need to embrace it. Just enjoy the ride. Everything they do is perfect. Am I paraphrasing correctly, or what's your...
Everything they've done in this season has more or less been perfect. Yeah. I mean, there's no room to be critical of anything from the beginning of the season until this break. So it's a look at, what is it, 59 games? Because they play, it's like 59 games, right? So my point is, let's look at these 59 games leading up to the break. And I'm just saying there's no reason to be critical of anything, which is very remarkable when it comes to a pro sports team, okay? Usually there's little things here or there. There are definitely things you can be critical of the Avalanche right now, fairly. We could have a whole Cadre Gerard conversation that could last into the wee hours. But every single move the Nuggets have made so far this year has made sense and put them in terrific position to do as best they can the rest of the year. That's what that was all about.
Well, okay, and I do think, and it was interesting, Bones spoke today as part of All-Star Weekend, the festivities.
What did he say? I missed that. What do you have to say?
He said he had great communication with the front office. He got along with all of his teammates. It was a communications issue with the coaching staff. And it was essentially nobody talked to me. Nobody told me what was going on. Nobody explained the plan to me. Nobody defined my role, which is why I put it on Michael Malone. Like, it's not on the 22-year-old kid to just sit there and say, well, he's the coach, he's the boss, just do whatever he says.
I don't know if I buy that, man. I mean, I have heard from players and Coach Malone himself about how well he has communicated with a variety of guys in terms of where he stands with them, what their role is going to be. One of the reasons why Bones may not have been communicated great with is because Bones was hanging himself out to dry. Bones was separating himself. Bones had some issues there. That one feels weird to me right there, James. I'm not sure if I believe Bones.
I'm going to believe the guy who's willing to speak on the record about it, as opposed to all these people who aren't, right? And he's willing to come out there, and he took ownership in it of, hey, part of that was on me, and we both could have handled it better. I just think the adult in the room, the parent, if you want to play that analogy, is the one who needed to communicate better. So we'll see.
James, I mean, like, what exactly are you supposed to say to a player who leaves the game when he's benched for playing poorly?
I think, though, there's this. It's the whole thing of, like, everybody always talks about honor thy father and mother, right? They never go to the next verse, which is, hey, parents, don't exacerbate your kids. That always gets forgotten. And Michael Malone here was exacerbating him, right? Pushing him to the point of just like throwing up your hands of, you're not telling me what my role is. You're not explaining this. I play one game. I don't play the next game. What's going on? That is on Michael Malone for exacerbating his young player. I just think it's...
I'm not jumping on your back because I have sadly... on a personal level, I have sadly seen coaches not communicate with players in a competitive environment, and it's
frustrating.
Oh my God, it's just like just talk to them, be clear, even if it's bad news,
right?
Just be upfront and be. I always come from a perspective of being more encouraging than critical. I find like yelling at athletes or telling them how terrible they are and how much I hate you or ignoring them, I think that is completely negligent in terms of being a coach. I'm struggling with this because while I agree with you, if that's true, I have a problem with it. But I'm stuck on this because I'm serious. I mean, I know that Malone's had in-depth conversation with Flacco and Jeff Green about their roles, and Michael Porter Jr. and Christian Brown, who was playing a lot, then wasn't playing. I mean, James, I can't deny that Malone has talked about it, and the athletes have confirmed it. I've talked to those guys too, that there is a good line of communication. Did something get squirrely with Bones in particular that was different than everybody else? It probably did. And what's the genesis of it? I mean, just this week, I heard there were some major problems between Boogie Cousins and Bones Highlands. That goes back to last year. So I think this Bones situation actually has been brewing. I don't think it was a this year only sort of thing. I think it had been percolating. And then again, there's another big difference. Jamal Murray wasn't there last year. So when Bones went in with the second unit, James, it was clear what the role was. When Jamal came back, and Jamal's going to play for 30-something minutes, and Bones is going to play for 20-something minutes. I mean, if you're going to do that, James, they got to play on the court together. Yeah. You can't avoid it. And that was just a disaster. So I think maybe it was more, okay, Bones felt like he wasn't being communicated with. I'm not going to deny his feelings or say he was lying. But I'll tell you this, his role kind of shifted too because of the health and depth of the team. And also, this is not a team that is looking to develop anybody. Not really. That's why Christian Brown is working out so well, because he really just fits into what they need as a rookie, which is so rare. I think the ceiling for Bones is possibly unimaginable. I mean, he has that level of talent. But just like Bol really did need to move on, and look how much better he is with Orlando. He never would have developed like that with the Nuggets.
And they're not in development. They're not in a development window. They're in a championship window.
They are. That's right.
And I do think that if Calvin Booth thought that situation had a chance to fester and explode and derail things in the, from now through whatever their playoff run is done, then yeah, he probably did have to move on from him. I think Reggie Jackson being here for this year probably makes them better. I think they need to be looking through the front window not looking back at Memphis and Sacramento or whoever. They're going to win the West. They need to be looking at Boston, Milwaukee, trying to make sure they have home court advantage. They've fallen. Our prop shop today, this is interesting. The Nuggets have fallen to fourth best odds to win the NBA title at 15-2. Milwaukee and Boston being ahead of them, I get it. But the Suns, after the Kevin Durant trade, now ahead of them. Do you think the Nuggets are still the favorite in the West? Do you think they need to be looking out the front window, not the rearview mirror? Where are you at on their championship?
Well, like I wrote about, this is why I wrote the bone stuff is a blip on the radar. The fact that we're spending this much time talking about it actually does not justify the impact it's having, which is like none. The chemistry of this team, James, is superior. It's why it is the best Nuggets team up until the All-Star break of all time.
It's the best Nuggets team of all time. It already is.
All right, I'm fine with that too. You know, they've had two teams that have gone to Western Conference Finals, so you know, they have Hall of Famers that used to be part of the Nuggets team, and they certainly do with Jokic, and we'll see. But I'm fine with that. I think it's chemistry at the end of the day. I think the Celtics have it. Celtics are a weird situation too because of the head coaching interim, and they took that. He's now their full-time coach. That's just weird. There's something weird about the Celtics I can't put my fingers on. Like, I'm actually more afraid of the Bucks with Giannis, who I think they have much more of a family chemistry sort of thing. Plus, they already have a championship pedigree. Home court. Obviously, it'd be an advantage for the Nuggets. They have the best home court record in the NBA at 27-4. But I don't think they're going to change their approach. They have 13 games left. If we're doing some other prop shop sort of things, depending on how we chop it up, they have 23 games left. 10 at home, 13 on the road. My guess is they go 8-2 at home, okay? And a couple of those losses at home, maybe after things are decided, and probably 6-7 on the road. They're a 500 team on the road right now. Yeah. So I think just a pinch under 500 is likely where they'll be. That will give them, how am I doing? 16 wins, 41, 57 wins. You got 57 wins. You win the West probably by 3 or 4 games at the worst. And you probably lose to Boston and Milwaukee. They probably both have better overall records than you at the end. But I don't think sacrificing or doing things that aren't really you are worth it. You know, you just got to get there. And I'll worry about Boston or Milwaukee once we're in the NBA Finals. And I won't hem and haw about things in the regular season as long as they can maintain home court. And Phoenix, I don't know, James. I mean, I get it on the surface, but do we know chemistry-wise why this super team's going to work now?
No.
My guess is it won't. My guess is Phoenix will be much harder to deal with next year.
I'm not buying Phoenix having better odds than the Nuggets at the moment. It's like, come on. How many games have – it's not like we've seen 10 games since the Durant trade, and oh my gosh, they're just unbeatable. Like, maybe, but let's wait and see. The Nuggets should still be the favorite to win the West. The fact that they're not, I think, is a little bit ridiculous. But going back to your math, right? If they go 8-2 at home, that's 35-6 at home during the regular season.
Yeah.
And it's 20-21 on the road. That's why having home court in the NBA Finals is so important. You're basically unbeatable at home, and you're just not a very good road team. A sub 500 road team for the number 1 seed is not that impressive.
Yeah, but really, really quick, there's only 7 teams in the NBA that have a 500 or better record on the road, and only 2 other teams in the Western Conference. So going 500 on the road, James, is actually, pretty good overall compared to what everybody, and the teams that are over 500 on the road, it's like 2-3 games over 500. It's like that. It's like 17-14 rather than 14-14, stuff like that.
I just think they should, to me, it's why you got to stop giving away games. You got to look through the front window, the rearview mirror. 57 wins is the most wins in Nuggets history. Wasn't one of the best Nuggets teams of all time, but that's the team record. I think if you can get to that, I think you have a chance to have home court all the way through the playoffs. That should be the goal, 57.
I mean, you go 8-2 at home, you go 6-7 on the road, boom, 57 wins. That's exactly how you would do it.
I think that's 55.
No, they got 41 wins right now. That would be 16. No, wait, hold on. 14. Oh, damn, it'd be 55.
Right.
Really, I took 1 year of math at Syracuse, and they just didn't care. They seriously didn't care.
They got to win 16. They got to go 16-7 down the stretch to get to 57. That seems
Well, listen,
doable.
man.
That's doable.
It's doable.
But it's not if
You
you're
know,
giving away
James,
games.
you're right. It's doable. They could do it. I don't want them to overextend themselves. Like, why did Steve Kerr play Steph Curry when he's not going to play Draymond Green and Klay Thompson in Denver? I mean, that was dumb. And I know you don't want anybody to take time off.
Well, either sit them all or you sit none of them. To sit.
Well, exactly.
I'll give you that. That's dumb.
Exactly. So you saw what the Avalanche had to do to win in Minnesota. James, they had to take that regular season back-to-back roadie in Minnesota like it was game 7 of the final.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how they played it. Like Georgiev 2 nights in a row, back-to-back. You don't do that in the regular season. They got Josh Manson back fine. They barely put Curtis McDermott and Matt Nieto and Cogliano. They barely put those guys on the ice. So they were overextending all of their stars. They were outshot 43-19. I mean, they were hanging on by a thread for 2 points in February. You know, I don't want to see that for the Nuggets right now because I know what the Nuggets were at the end of the season last year, James. I remember how they were before the All-Star break. They were burned out. This team isn't burned out at all. The Avalanche weren't burned out either around this time last year. They're burning candles at both ends.
Well, and the good thing is they're basically all going to get a week off, right? It's All-Star weekend. Michael Malone will be there coaching. Nikola Jokic will be there. That's it. Nobody else from Nuggets made the All-Star team. Nobody's in the three-point contest.
Yeah.
Nobody's in the slam dunk
contest. It's actually good.
It's a week off. Are you interested in it at all? You're going to be watching it. What's your take on All-Star weekend?
Who cares? I mean, I would laugh if Jokic goes for like 13, 12, and 10 and gets a triple-double in the All-Star game. I think that would be pretty funny if he were to do that. But no, I have absolutely positively no interest in anything to do with the All-Star game whatsoever. I'll be locked into the Avs play at St. Louis, and I'll be at the game Sunday against Edmonton, and hopefully I'll go skiing at some point over the weekend too. Who knows? You know, we'll try to figure that out. It's a very busy ski weekend in Colorado, so maybe I'll avoid that too. I will not watch 1 second of anything to do with the All-Star stuff. And if I can see a video that's under 45 seconds about the dunk competition, perhaps I'll watch that. But other than that, this has no interest to me whatsoever. You?
No, I'm right there with you. I have no interest in it. The game is totally.
I'll tell you this: the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard for Jokic is like justification for him not to be the MVP is that he doesn't stand out in the All-Star game.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares?
I mean, this is right up there with Charlie Blackmon's in the home run derby, and it's throwing off his swing to prep for the home run derby.
Right.
I really don't think people understand what it takes to be a superstar on those levels, you know, and what we're going to see over the weekend is not what it takes.
No.
It's not.
No, and I actually think it's a good thing that for the most part the Nuggets got snubbed. They can all get a week off, go down to Cabo, go wherever they're going to go, relax, get rested, come back and try to go 16-7 down the stretch, roll into the playoffs as the number 1 seed, not just in the West, but in the entire NBA. D-Mac, that was a breeze.
I love that. This is the look of somebody who's like totally disheveled as an old person. When the collar flops out of the sweater, the fact that I'm actually wearing a sweater, I really didn't feel like I should wear pajamas again on coffee break. But I wasn't able to keep this tucked in. This is like I'm really good at chess and not good at talking to women. That's that.
I've got the Michael Malone zip it all the way up to the top look going. That was my Malone shirt. So, you know.
Much more stylish. I look like I'm about to get lost feeding pigeons.
I could see that. But hey, filling in for Rachel, those are big shoes. You made it a breeze. I appreciate it.
I think she just has size 5s. I mean, she's like petite.
She'll be back Tuesday, though. It's President's Day weekend. Long weekend. Everybody go enjoy it.
All right. Who's your favorite president aside from like the big 5?
Well, who are the big 5? You got Washington, Lincoln, Jefferson, the 2 Roosevelts. Are they the?
I don't know. Aside from the normal guy,
it's Teddy Roosevelt. He's my favorite.
Why?
I love the man in the arena speech.
Give me his death by inches slogan. Teddy Roosevelt.
What was his? His wasn't.
Come on,
walk slow and carry a big stick.
That's it. Say it again.
Is it walk softly and carry a big stick? That's what it was. Yes. Look at that.
Spanish-American War, Teddy Roosevelt. That's what I'm talking about.
His
Teddy.
wife and his mother died on the same day. He went up to the Badlands for like a year just to get a break and get his mind straight. Teddy Roosevelt was a badass.
My favorite presidential story was, I think it was Grover Cleveland. He's a super fat guy, and he did not wear an overcoat at his inauguration, and he died a month later.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Okay.
Well, William Howard Taft was fat too. He got stuck in the bathtub.
I mean, there have been just some great presidents.
Yeah. There we go. Look at that. Look at us dropping the American.
All right, let's do this real quick. Go backwards. How far can you go backwards?
All right, so you're Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, Carter, Ford, Nixon, Kennedy. No, sorry, Johnson, Kennedy.
Yep.
Eisenhower, Truman, Franklin Roosevelt.
I'm not sure now.
Before Franklin Roosevelt was Hoover,
Hooverville.
Woodrow Wilson.
Maybe. I'm lost.
That's about as far as I can go. I'm at like 1900.
God, you almost got. Hey, dude, you almost got to Lincoln. That's impressive.
Not bad.
How far can you go frontwards?
Jeez. Well, it's Washington, Adams, Jefferson. Adams, Madison?
Madison was 5. Yep.
Was it like Andrew?
Or is it Monroe?
I don't know. I know they're all in there.
But Adams was 2 and 4. It was him, and then it was his kid.
John Adams and John Quincy?
Yep. And just like Bush and Bush.
Okay. All right. So they were 2 and 4. Yeah, that 5 through about. You got a Van Buren in there somewhere. I don't know. No idea. All right.
Well.
All right, D-Mac. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Coffee Break. Rachel and D-Mac will be back on Tuesday. See you then.